Recording. So we are here for episode 31 of our Voices of Strength series, and we are here with the family of Marco Vazquez Jr. He was killed by the Pico Rivera Sheriff's Department, and we have his family with us. We have his mother and we have his wife. Can you ladies please introduce yourself and where you guys are from?
Okay. Hi, my name is Christina Vazquez, and I am from Whittier, California.
And my name is Leticia Vazquez, and I was born in Los Angeles, California.
Thank you. And thank you, ladies, for being here with us. I know you ladies have watched the show before and seen other families come up here and talk with me, and it's your turn now. So we're talking about your loved one, and 2019 coming up on 2 years, been a long 2 years. These shows, we go about an hour. It really doesn't give the families, we can't share everything. There's so much that our families have been through, but we really like to highlight the loved ones for who they were, things about them that humanize them, that people can listen to and realize this person is a human being that mattered. So always like to kick this off with talking about your loved one. So I invite you to share anything that you guys want to. I have to say, Christina, I see you guys' pictures. I just see you guys were really young, high school sweethearts.
We met in junior high. We met when we were 13.
I see, everything you share. I follow your stuff, and then I see you guys were so young. You see you guys, the family, how the family grew, the family changes. And yeah, it's beautiful, but it's sad too. And yeah, so if you want to share about that, Mom, I know you have a ton of stuff to share about your son. So whoever would like to start, go ahead and take it away.
I'll let Christina start. She's a good storyteller.
Okay, so we met Los Nietos Middle School is the junior high we attended, and we met 8th grade. And it was like puppy love, but it was just really crazy love, really fast. We ended up getting pregnant at 14, and we had our first daughter at 15, and then 17, and then 19, and then we had 3 little girls. And then from there we kind of went our separate ways. He came back into the picture in 2014. So he was in and out of the girls' lives consistent, but as far as us being together, he came back into the picture in 2014 saying he wanted his family back. And my daughters were teenagers at the time. They were 17, 15, and 13. And they were like, oh, hell no.
I was, what
yeah,
would
very overprotective of Mom. And then they learned to accept it. And then we ended up getting married a day before my birthday. So we got married March 7th of 2015. And then we welcomed our son Jax in July of 2016. And then we welcomed Mason in August of 2019. So wow. It has been a journey with that man.
Wow. And that family grew really fast, and teenage, little, that is.
Yeah. Like, and I know he was really excited when we found out that we were pregnant with Jax, because he carried a lot of guilt for not being so present for the girls when they were growing up. So to him, it was like this dream of we get a second chance. Like it was our second chance at getting our family back together. But now he was like, we get a second chance to like raise our family together. Wow. And I remember he cried. He was so excited throughout the whole pregnancy. And then for the birth of Jax, he was super excited too. So yeah, that in a nutshell, to keep it short, that's pretty much a whirlwind romance. Like we tried to live separately, and we kind of could never shake each other.
Wow, that is crazy. I just
There's always fire in the coal.
Yeah.
wow. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Thank you. And then to have boys added to the picture at the end, that and they're so cute. Your family is so cute. The little boys. I know you have your hands full, like
Yes.
me.
Yes. They're wild.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Mom, do you want to say anything about that, or anything, any memories that pop up that you want to share?
Oh boy. Well, he was a normal kid like any other, He had his good and bad in school. He was a class clown. Always wanted to be the clown in the classroom. But as a baby, he was a good baby. He was very lovable, and he was really good at balancing when he learned how to walk. And at a very young age, he was already walking on concrete walls, like,
Oh,
yeah, he would walk, and then at one point he started running on them. He was a good visual learner, and so he would observe a lot and see what people were doing, and then he'd try to mimic what people were doing. And so, he liked playing with his cousins, and he was always good for a good laugh. And Marcos never did anything the same. It was always, he would get in trouble for whatever X reason, and it was never the same thing. It was always something different. As if I said, don't do this, he would do it. He wouldn't do it, but then he'd do something different.
something else.
And so, it was always something different. I never got at him about the same thing. And so, he, typical growing up kid with, a lot of good things, a lot of fun things. He loved to dance. He was very good at music. He had a big array taste in music, different genres, and loved movies. He can see a movie within a second. He'd tell you the name of the movie and who was in it. And it was like, how do you remember this stuff? And it's like, I do. It's like, but I was always amazed at his ability to remember songs and movies. Really, really good at that. And so, really, really a fun kid. He was a fun kid. And, but he didn't like certain things. He didn't like changes. He had a hard time with changes. And one of the changes that he didn't like was moving from schools. And had he known Christina was just about maybe half a block away from that school, he probably would have met Christina back when they were little. Little did we know that destiny always plays a part, right? We lived so close to each other throughout their childhood, and we ended up living in the same area. And, destiny just was destined for them two to meet.
Yeah.
And so, so, that was his girl. That was a girl of his dreams. That was a girl that filled his eye. And she was always, she was always his light. And so, I remember when he got pregnant the first time, he was happy and he was excited, and well, obviously he got in trouble. And we
Oh, yeah.
scolded him. Yeah, we scolded him and everything. You're what? You're old? You're having what? And so that was always a shock because they made me a grandma at 32.
Wow,
And,
oh my gosh.
yeah, so I was always the first at everything in the family. And so I was the first grandma of all my siblings. And so that was a big shocker. And then I remember when he told me about the second one, I almost, flipped and fell to the floor. And he tried to tell me in the most gentle way that he knew how to tell me that he was going to be a dad for a second time. And his exact words were, "It gives me a reason to live, Mom." And so he was always proud of being a dad. He was always proud of his family. And it didn't take long before he found a sign that said, "I love being a dad." And it's still on his bedroom door. And he did, he loved being a dad. He loved family, he loved a good time. He loved to be in correlation and in gatherings with family. And he took it very much to the heart to be that family man that showed love to everybody. And, you know, he wasn't the perfect son. He wasn't the perfect man or the perfect husband, but we, you know, there is no perfect person. And so, you know, he had his ups and downs and things. And, but the good things that he gave were those that made you fall in love with him, and you loved him or you hated him kind of thing. And, but he always made it, he always tried to make it a point to want to win you over. And if he thought that there was some ill, he always wanted to make you smile, to make you laugh. He was corny, he was funny. Like we say in Spanish, era barbero. And if he saw that you were grumpy, he would blow you kisses and wink his eye and throw you his cheesy smile, which always made everybody give up and say, "Okay, I surrender," you know. And you'd end up giving him a hug because that was just him. He didn't like to see anybody mad at him.
No.
He didn't know how to deal when somebody was mad at him, and he didn't know how to deal with the silent treatment. He was very sensitive, and he couldn't deal with those things. If you know, if someone was mad at him or he got mad at somebody, the minute he turned around or a few minutes later, he had forgotten about it. He moved on with his business, and he wanted everybody to be the same way, and just, you know, just let bygones be bygones and act like nothing happened. And sometimes, you know, there's things that you can't just wait for, not, you know, and let it go. There's things you do have to talk about. So he was no, but you know, he was a good provider when he was able to work and do his thing. He became a self-taught, I shouldn't say a self-taught, a truck driver. And it was a female that taught him how to drive. And he worked for 3 months with no pay. And his only pay was whatever people would give him to eat. And he didn't care because he was going to learn something. He was going to learn a career, something that he loved to do. He loved to drive. By the way, we never taught him how to drive. He started driving on his own. One day he took off on our car, and his dad, instead of coming in to tell me he came in to tell me that his son had taken the car and taken off. And I'm like, "What are you doing here? Why aren't you chasing him down the street and get the car back?" But his dad was so proud of him because he had taken off on the car, and I think he was 12 or 14 when he took off on the car, and we never taught him how to drive. So that's the kind of visual learner he was. It was just, he was extremely smart, and he knew it. He knew he was smart. And so those are the little things that he do, you know, and the sacrificing of becoming the truck driver and his dream was to be his own businessman, owner of his own truck. And he made that goal. He made that dream come true together with his children and his wife, and he was proud of himself. He accomplished a lot of good things. He set out to do and accomplished all the things that he set out to do. He got there. And it may have been with ups and downs and struggles, but he made those dreams come true. And he still had more that he didn't get to, because obviously they ripped him out of our life, and his unfortunate mental condition just got the best of him. And so it became too much for him after a while. And I'm proud of him for everything that he did accomplish. I'm proud of I'm very proud of him for proving to himself that he was capable of doing everything and anything he put his mind to, and that he got to see that for himself. And so unfortunately, tragic hit, and when they took him away from us, they took us too, you know. And here we are grieving a lifetime, because how do you get over something like this?
Yeah. Yeah. It literally is a lifetime. And I for the people that will be watching, I'm on your family's justice page, the Instagram Justice for Marco Vazquez Jr. And we've just been scrolling through pictures as mom is sharing about her son. Please go ahead. You guys follow the page. So you can support the family there. There's links to more info and updates there. So, and I'm just, it's really sad to be looking at the photos and talking to you guys and just knowing what you guys have been through, knowing that this is your life now, that you guys have to do this. Can you share how old he was at the time of his passing?
He was 37.
37. And then can you, he's a father. Can you also share the ages of all the children? And yeah.
Yes, at the time that he passed away, our oldest daughter was 20 or about to be 22. Oh no, she had just turned 22, 22, 20, 18. Jax was 3 and Mason was 6 weeks old.
My goodness.
Mhm.
Wow.
And then we also, well, I mean, we have two grandchildren, but he didn't get to meet Ryder, unfortunately, but Juliet was also 3 at the time. And he loved her very much, and she did as well. That was her papu, and she still cries for him to this day too, along with Jax.
Gosh, see, this is one of the things that and the reasons that I do this show and talk to the families and all these children. He wasn't just a father, he was a grandfather.
Yes.
He was a father to a bunch of kids. That's a good amount of kids that do not have a father. We have wife here, we have mom, that's her baby. And I just can't, it's hard hearing this from all these families and seeing what you guys have been through. And my condolences to you guys again.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming on and sharing too, and letting us know more about your family and being open. Also, I admire your guys' fight and being open to share about his struggles as well. You guys are here you guys are the ones being honest, not the officials. You guys are, hey, he was going through things, he wasn't the perfect man, but at the end of the day, the actions that happened, they were not necessary. They were excessive. It's not. So I thank you guys, and you guys have been out there, and I see you guys. I want to go out there to that area one day, meet all you families, and you guys fight together. It is. It is. Are there any? I know I kind of scrolled through any photos. If there were any that you guys want to talk about or share about, just please let me know. But yeah, lots of family photos. You can see that you guys are just, that's you guys are a real family, that you lost a very important person. I want to share with the people viewing, these things, they have a lot of writing, but they're all specific to the family members who are pictured there. And I encourage people to go and read those and really see what the children are saying as well about their dad. It's really important. highlight the kids always, and also the adult kids, the girls, they're getting older, but they always need their father.
Yes.
You guys do have everybody's story is different, everybody's situation is different, and your family you guys reached out to the police for help, right? For help. And then, so if you, whoever wants to start sharing, it's fine. But I really want to highlight, with a lot of families that come on, reached out for help for their loved one in some capacity, or their loved one called the police themselves. So if you guys want to touch on anything about that, but yeah, go ahead and just share your experience and what you feel comfortable.
Okay, so that night he actually called the police himself. Obviously he had been diagnosed a paranoid schizophrenic before he was released from his second term, and he was getting treatment while he was locked up. So my mother-in-law had a lot of communication with his psychiatrist at the time and the team that was working with him to prepare her for when he comes home. Basically letting her know, listen, the son who you knew going in is not going to be the same person coming out, because he experienced his first psychotic episode in September of 2012. And when that happened, he experienced seeing us all get murdered. And us, I mean his parents, his brother, myself, and his daughters, because at the time we didn't have our boys. So he experienced witnessing us getting murdered in all kinds of different ways. And this went on for a good 8 months. And Letty would go visit him. They allowed her to be able to see him, because even if she was sitting in front of him, he didn't believe that that was her. He thought he was seeing her spirit. So it went on a good 8 months of intensive treatment. Finally, they were able to figure out what medications and get the appropriate amount that he needed, the dosage. But after that, because like he would cry when he would talk about it with me, and he wasn't very emotional. He was, he was just a guy who didn't let his emotions show all the time, always very guarded, but he had his moments when he would be confiding in me or in whoever he felt comfortable with. But the moments he confided in me, he would cry and say, I know that you guys didn't die. You guys are here with me. But I experienced what I experienced, and it was real to me at the time. So ever since that moment, his biggest fear was losing us again, or something happening to us again. So that was always his constant concern. And when he would go into his episodes, it was always because something was happening to us. So the night, or not even the night of, it had already been going on for longer than a month. We knew not to call the cops. We knew if we needed assistance, we'd call and ask for the PET team. We have a 5150. He needs to be evaluated. This is the situation. And prior to him getting killed in October, he was hospitalized and put on a 5150 in September. And they extended his hold. So he was there, I believe, a total of five or 6 days, if I'm not mistaken. And then he was released because he petitioned before the judge to get out, and even later admitted, I should have stayed, because he felt he still wasn't okay. He was already going through stuff and seeing things. His work was being affected. He wasn't him anymore. It was like taking over. And so the morning of, I had been up with him, I think since like 2 a.m, and he was kind of just pacing. He was acting a little erratic. And I was just kind of trying to listen to him, because in the moment when they're having an episode, it doesn't matter if it's not really happening. The more you tell them, it's not real, the more agitated they get. So I kind of just try listening to him and everything's okay. At least we're here with you, you know, kind of thing. Um, but that night, he called the cops himself because he believed that there were 3 men in our home that were trying to rape my daughters, myself, and my mother-in-law. And so he was calling for help because he's like, someone's here trying to hurt my family. You guys need to come get them. Um, so they show up with a huge team. At the same time, he's on the phone with them. My mother-in-law gets on the phone and she's letting him know, listen, this is a situation. My son is a paranoid schizophrenic. He's going through an episode right now. He believes, right? So kind of giving them the heads up. Um, so they come with the pet team and they ask us all to get out of the house. They come with the big old megaphone, you know, everyone hands up out of the house. So we're standing out in the street for a good almost 2.5 hours, right? About two and a half.
Yeah.
And the clinician that came on site really showed no interest in trying to speak to him or to assess the situation. She's kind of pacifying it like, he's fine, he just needs sleep. Her and I don't know if he was a captain, I don't know who he was, but her and another officer just kept saying he has to sleep it off. But anyone that has training in that field, and I'm guessing she had to have, if she's a licensed clinician, she has to have had experience dealing with a schizophrenic at one point in her career, knows they're not going to sleep anything off.
Yeah.
Because it's very real and they're undergoing a crisis at the moment.
She never tried to talk to him.
Yeah, no, she didn't make it a point to speak to him whatsoever. So they end up figuring out, they're like, you know, there's no situation here. He's not a harm to himself. He's not a harm to anyone else. So we're out. And they're advising us to leave. They want us to leave him home alone and we need to just go somewhere. So of course his parents are like, we're not leaving our home. We're not going to leave him here. And my daughters at the time were like, Mom, let's just go. Cause I had called one of my cousins to pick up the babies since we were out and it was cold and we had just walked out of the house. We didn't have shoes on, blankets, nothing. So one of our cousins had come to pick up the boys. And so I'm kind of on the fence, like, should I go? Should I stay? And then at this point, he's getting more agitated. And I feel like because in his mind, he really was thinking they're going to hurt my family. He's getting agitated because he just had all these people come. No one believed him. Everyone left. This is a situation. It's a crisis. Now he's starting to make other statements. So my oldest daughter is like, should I call? He's not okay. We need to have them come back. There was maybe a 20-minute gap in from them leaving to her making the other call. When she calls and she says, hey, listen, we need the pet team to come back. They tell her, oh, they're closed. So we're gonna send a patrol call. We're gonna send a patrol car to assess the situation, to talk to you, and then we'll see, you know, whatever we can do from there. And I think it was a few minutes, maybe 5 minutes after she called, they showed up, and within 8 seconds, they shot and killed him in front of us.
How many? Can you repeat that? I'm sorry.
It was like about 8 seconds that they showed up. He was gone. So
if that.
Yeah, if that, because it felt like a move, like we were in a movie and very slow motion. Unfortunately, like everyone, the first thing they asked was, did you guys record it? Well, I didn't even think to have my phone out because at no point in time was I thinking this was ever going to happen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I was never fearful and thinking, okay, they're going to come and assassinate him in front of us.
Yeah.
And it happened so fast, there was no time to get anything because we were running with them saying, what are you guys doing? But so they weren't wearing body cams. We don't have the video recordings. We went around asking neighbors if anyone by any chance, you know, with the ring, with the new ring things. But one of the neighbors got to get the audio. And that is just horrible because all you hear are the gunshots and us screaming. And then after that, it was just a mess because My mother-in-law threw herself on top of him. My middle daughter went running, screaming to try to wake him up. They were both drug off of him. From there, it was just a mess. They were very violent with all of us. I can't even tell you when they pulled them off the scene, because I know that that's standard procedure to take the shooting officers off the scene. And then other officers came in. Next thing we know, they're putting up the tape and we're being pushed to the side. And then there's maybe like a line of officers between 10 to 15, I would say, pretty much all laughing at us because we're screaming. We were a mess. Um, and I want to say by midnight, they're telling us to go to the station because we need to take statements. And at that point, because everything was happening, I literally, we were all in so much shock. I know that my middle daughter was saying, we don't have to go, we don't have to go. But I honestly, it's like my body was there, but I was like checked out. I didn't know what the hell was going on. We get in there, we go to the station, and we were held for about 10 hours. So we were released. By the time we get home, it's like 10 o'clock the next morning, and they had just picked up his body. And there was still blood on the driveway. So my father-in-law washed off his son's blood off the driveway. They also went into our home without a warrant. Our dog was walking outside on the street. The living room was a mess. Like you could tell that they were trying to look for stuff. But yeah, so while we're in the station, because we got there like around midnight, 12:30, somewhere around that time, around 3 in the morning is when we see the first oh my god, the first news
Reporting.
the coverage on Marco and what happened. And we're like, what the hell? Because they hadn't even spoken to us yet. And they already had a statement about this false narrative about what happened. And they're playing it. I mean, we're sitting there for hours. We're playing it every hour on the hour.
Wow.
And so by the time everyone wakes up, our phones are going off the hook because they're releasing this completely false narrative. People are thinking, oh my God, what was he doing to them? Because one story was saying he had a knife held to a woman's throat. They didn't specify what woman, so I'm sure people were wondering, like, oh my God, was it a domestic dispute? You know what I mean? They were leaving room for a lot of speculation at that point. So by the time we get home, they've released how many different narratives? 2 to 3 different narratives.
They changed the story about 3 or 4 times, and Detective Alfred made several different statements, and they were all different. But they painted the narrative that they wanted to paint.
Yes.
And so that people could then, oh, what a asshole he was, or whatever, you know, they wanted that picture to be painted so that people could be horrified at what he had done.
Like maybe
But
like he
it wasn't the way they painted it.
No, they wanted to make it look like he was terrorizing the family and they came to save us. And that wasn't at all what was going on.
And we didn't feel no danger. We didn't feel no fear at any point with him, because we knew what he was trying to do. He was trying to protect us, because in his own mind, like Christina said, he was, you know, hearing the voices and seeing the things and what was real to him. And everything that he went through in 2012 and 13, it seems like it had came back tenfold. And so it was really, you know, it was really real. He was really living that psychotic episode. And so, you know, to be hung and burned and chopped, and then to be alive the next day, and then to talk to him, and then 20 minutes later, you're on the phone with him again, and we're we're gone. It was just that quick. We would die in so many different ways. And all of that came back. All of that came back and even worse. So that's what was happening. He was trying to defend us. He was trying to protect us from whatever he was seeing. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you both for explaining that and just the way you shared it, painting that and sharing that for us, because it is important. Many people are facing different mental health illnesses, crisis situations, and people need to know, like, that's our most vulnerable people. And for the police to be killing such a high number, we need to talk about these things. It saddens me to hear that's what he was going through. It sounds like a lot of suffering. It's something that nobody would ever want to go through. And that you guys were trying to help him, doing your best, calling, knowing not to call the cops, knowing to try to reach out to that team that is supposed to be there for a reason. And they failed you all. I mean, more than failed, I want to touch a couple things, Christina, that you had shared, just the screams. You mentioned the neighbor's audio, and it's horrible. I was thinking about the screams earlier today. And only like a family that has been through it, I think us are the ones that will truly know that moment, whether you're there, that moment you find out those screams, we can never freaking get away from them. We can never unsee, unhear. All of us have been through it, and it's horrible. And I could just imagine when you shared that, like how horrible that could have sounded. I just want people to really see this and hear us and know what you guys have been through, and all of us. The screams, the blood, that no father should ever have to have done that. It's not the first time, even just on this show, that a family has shared that they had to go clean their loved one's blood.
Right.
These things are not right. As I speak to more families more deeply, like on these things, details like that, it's just, we realize it's not just wrong what they do to us, it's abusive, it's criminal, like the stuff that they're doing to the families and the families' aftermath that all of you guys have been through. So those parts, they just give me those feelings, deep down. I feel it so bad.
And speaking of blood, I forgot to mention when Letty she threw seconds after, obviously because no one was expecting that to happen. So seconds after, she throws herself on top of Marco like any mother would, like trying to stop the bullets, right? And she screams out, "No!" And so we're at the station, and I don't know if we were covered in blankets. I don't know what was, I don't remember. But at one point she stood up, I think it was to go to the restroom, and I said, "Letty, look at your shirt." And it had blood on it, but she still has it too. She has it up in a frame. But it's like, it looks like he imprinted the writing. It looks like an I, and then it's a heart and a U.
Wow.
She's gonna show it to you. We put it on a frame to try to conserve it as best as we could. Pick it up with all the I don't know if you can see the I and then the heart and then the U. Do you see it?
Yes. Oh my God, I see it. Yeah.
That's how it was. And so she went the next day, or that same day, that after we were released, she went to Michael's and bought like a specialty frame and put the shirt in there. So we have it hung in her house. We have like a little wall of memorabilia of him, and that is one of the main things that's up on that wall.
Wow, that just gave me chills. But every family comes in with different beliefs. I'm a believer in the signs and the extra things that our loved ones do for us, and that just the good chills.
Yes.
In sharing your story, I just want to say too, and I know people watching will agree that we are getting, like, I'm visualizing it as you share. I can see almost personally, like I feel like I can see Mom jumping and how you explained it, and it's horrible. But unfortunately, you know, this is our life, and we need to share this with the people to know. And no more families, like no more families. I know that's part of the reasons that a lot of us still fight for our loved ones, but you know, to stop this, gosh, my goodness, ladies, you ladies have been through so much. Oh, I did want to say too, also about them laughing at you guys as you were crying, screaming, going through that pain. It's just sick. An extra thing that the police do to the families. It seems like it's never an experience where they were actually decent to the family. Like, why do you guys have to treat us like that? Why do you guys do harm to these innocent people, like, who have just gone through this? No empathy.
No, and one thing that made me angry too is because after my mother-in-law jumped on him, they drug her off. Then my daughter went running and she's holding his head and she's like, "Oh, Dad, wake up, wake up." And his blood is on her hands. So the female officer threw her into me. And so I mean, we're all freaking out. But my daughter is like, "You motherfucker, you killed my dad." She just lost it. And so the male officers shoving me, and he's telling me, "If you don't tell her to shut the fuck up, I'm gonna take her too." And I know that he was threatening her life. He wasn't talking
Yeah.
about taking her to jail. He was threatening her life. And so because she's so hysterical, she's pushing herself into me because she's trying to attack him. And so I'm in between both of them, but I'm trying to calm her down because I know what he's yelling in my ear. And I'm like, "You're not about to kill someone else too." So I'm like, "Mommy, please calm down." And it took my other daughter's boyfriend to come and help me because I couldn't contain her. But I know my oldest daughter too, the minute they shot him, she screamed out and she was like, "It's my fault." And she carries that guilt with her because she's the one who made the call. And I feel like each one of us, I can't speak for everyone, but I know for me and my daughters, because we've, obviously we talk about it, we each carry our own guilt and our own grief differently. And people can tell you a million different, "Oh no, you don't need to feel bad, it wasn't your fault." But you're gonna feel how you're gonna feel about it, and no one can take that from you. And I can tell my oldest daughter 1,000 different ways, or till I'm blue in the face, "Baby, it's not your fault." She's going to take that with her to the grave because she carries that. And we had to speak before the board. I always mix up the name of the board. Who are they?
The Los Angeles Commission
The board, right?
board members.
We addressed them a few weeks ago, and in that statement, they wanted us to say the lasting effects it had, what we went through on our family. And I shared that with them. I said, "My oldest is carrying a guilt that she doesn't have to carry. She wasn't the one who pulled the trigger."
The Oversight Commission,
Yes.
Los Angeles Oversight Commission.
Okay. Gosh.
It's the things that they don't see,
Mm-hmm.
the pain that they don't see, the crying of the babies. The older granddaughter's his wife. His brother also got grazed with a lost bullet on that day. And so 3 of us were on the floor when they shot him. And he, the reason why he fell was because of the grazing of the bullet on his foot. And had it been a centimeter under, it would have probably hit one of his artery veins and he could have lost his foot maybe. It was just by the grace of God that the shoelace inlets and the shoelace itself, it grazed him around that area. So or else if it would have gone a little bit lower, it would have probably, messed up his whole foot, shattered his foot. So what if, they would have hit him somewhere else? And if I would have lost both of my kids?
Yeah.
Shot my father-in-law and mother-in-law because when they ran, all 4 of them were on the driveway, and when they started shooting, they just ran and shot. They didn't shout any commands. they were just shooting carelessly. So they could have taken out all of them at the same time. It's a miracle they didn't, you know?
So reckless. And it's not like, they're not like in a war zone. They're not even in the streets. They're in a family home.
Yes.
So still in the same home, some of the family.
Me and my kids just recently moved out in June. Yeah, but we were all there. We were living there with them for 7 years.
Yeah. We find that a lot too with families that still live in the home maybe, and how hard it is just being there. Some families preserve the scene. They purposely don't want to leave because they want to preserve that scene because the cops have lied. Will you ladies share just, I know how you're treated that day. You've shared a little bit about that, but afterwards, like since it's been years and in the meantime, if like an update, maybe where you're at right now, the work you ladies and the family have been doing together as well.
So we were planning, we wanted to do a march for him. It happened in October. We were planning to do one in April of 2020, but then COVID hit. And so that put a standstill on everything. And from there, we were on lockdown. And then George Floyd happened. And we were quiet. I know his parents were like, we don't want to say anything right now. The news stations were waiting for us the morning after. We didn't want to talk. We didn't say anything. We were quiet. And then George Floyd happened. And I remember, obviously everyone's in an uproar. And I'm like, oh my God, that's horrible what happened to him. And everyone in every city and every state is getting ready, right? They're going to hit the streets. They're going to hit the ground running. And I said, you know what? Fuck this. Excuse my language. We're going out there. Like, I'm done. I'm done being quiet. We're going to go. And me and my daughters were like, let's go. And so in Whittier, because like I said, in every city, in every state, people were getting hit up. Hey, we're going to be here. We're going to be there. So in our city, we ended up linking up with some people, and that was the first time that we went out there. And for me, personally speaking, it felt very empowering. And that was the first time ever other than the night of, because the night of, I was very combative with the officers. I was talking a lot of shit. I was in their faces. I was telling them all kinds of stuff. But after that night, when we went to go march, in regards to George Floyd and anyone else that had been taken by the hands of law enforcement, it was very empowering for me. And that kind of pushed us to, then my daughter was like, I'm going to open up a page under dad's name. So she facilitates that. She runs with that. From there, we ended up, I believe how I met Laura is I accepted a request on Facebook for families impacted by police brutality. And then from there, they said, hey, we have a young woman who's going to be putting a march together in October. Her name's Laura. She'd like to connect with you. I connected with her, and then we attended her event in October of 2020, which at the time we attended, there were 626 people who had been killed by police under Jackie Lacey. Now the number has gone up to 700 and something. I'm not even aware of the current number, but the fact that it's even gone up one more, right? But once we did that march, it was like seeing it, I was like, this is what I want to do for Marco. So after that, we've been very active in attending, unfortunately, it's also been a blessing to meet other families impacted. So we've attended their rallies, their marches. And then we finally were able to do his march of this year. We did it March 6th, kind of to keep the anniversary of the date. And I remember days prior, I believe it was on a Wednesday. His march was that Saturday. So the Wednesday before his march, we get a knock on our door because I'm still with my in-laws at this point, and I happen to walk into my room, and my room is right next to the driveway and entrance of the house. And I saw flashing lights. You know how they love to do that when they come up, and I'm like, what the hell? What do they want? Right away, like I'm on alert. And my father-in-law had gone to the door, and as soon as he saw them, he's like, talk to my wife. He had to walk away because he couldn't talk to them. So right away, I'm already coming to the door. So Letty's like, come on, let's go outside. And so we have two officers approaching us, and they're like, oh, so we hear you're putting together a march. We just wanted to get information on who's in charge. I've never been friendly with cops anyways, like very trusting of them. So I'm kind of just looking at them. I said, I am. But I know they were looking at me to give them names. And I said, I'm in charge of it. And so they're like, oh, do you know about how many people you're going to have in attendance? No. And then they're asking, oh, they wanted to know what major cross streets we were going to take. And I said, I'm not sure. Oh, no. They asked our route. And I said, main streets, but I was not giving them any specific information. And then they asked if they could have the number to the person in charge. So then I gave them my number. And they also gave us their number. They offered to help us facilitate the march. And we said we didn't need any assistance at the time. And then that was that. But we did our march. We marched from our house to the Pico station, which is like a little less than 2 miles. And luckily, we were not faced with any officers or anyone trying to give us a hard time. My father-in-law did see once we arrived that they had officers standing on the roof of the station. And once they crossed, like they backed up so we couldn't see them. And then we said our piece. We had each one, my daughters were able to speak. My mother-in-law spoke, my brother-in-law spoke, I spoke. We had other impacted families present as well. They did, someone did a chant for us, another one did a prayer for us. And then we took a moment of silence. And then we marched back to the house. And that for me also, I felt it was like this, but it's like this anger that's fueled in a positive way that gets me out there. Like it gives me this courage that takes over, and I'm like, I don't give two shits who you are. You're gonna know what happened, and you're gonna know his name. And it felt very empowering because City of Whittier is very conservative, and I believe that's the first time ever anything like that was done. So we got a lot of news coverage. We got a lot of media coverage. We got a lot of media coverage on it. And since then we're very active with the families. We're going out on marches, and anytime the families have something, we're always invited up to speak. They open it up. So any opportunity we can get, our whole goal is to keep his name alive, to keep sharing his story, because the minute talking, then his story dies out, and we don't want him to be forgotten or any of the others to be forgotten until we get justice for him and for all others involved. That is the main goal. That's the main focus.
Good. Thank you for sharing. And just again, for people watching, they can, you guys have the Instagram. Is there anywhere else or that they should refer to, or is the Instagram good?
Yeah, no, it would be the Instagram. And then from there, we have the link tree, like with petitions to sign any upcoming events. And then we also have a page for him on Facebook as well. But all that information would be found on Instagram.
Okay. Okay. And we'll definitely link that when we do post this and get your social media things connected on there.
Thank you. One thing I want to mention during that march, you mentioned being a believer of signs, and Marcos has given us a lot of different signs. He is still keeping to his word of being the protector, even if he's no longer here physically. spiritually, he shows us his presence. And while we were marching, as we were getting to the police station, we were on Washington and Passons making turn right at the gas station. And as we're walking now on Passons, somebody says, look, and everybody looks up. And I started praising the Lord, and I started saying hallelujah, because there was hundreds of white doves, birds, pigeons, whatever. There was hundreds circulating around, like if they were marching up in the heavens with us. And they followed us to the police station. And while we were protesting, while we were saying whatever we were saying to them, they were circulating over the police station. And I think that is just one way of him letting us know that they're with us. And if it was all of the loved ones that were protesting, and it was all of their loved ones up in the heavens, showing us that they're all there, I think they were celebrating the fact that we are all standing up for justice, that we are all in a roar wanting to get justice for our loved ones, that this fight isn't over. And that for me, seeing them fly above us was God trying to tell us that we will be okay, that he's watching over us, that they're protecting us, and that justice will be served. And so that I will take with me in my heart. It will be one of the most beautiful memories of all this tragedy, because that was hope, that was faith, and that was just knowing to not give up ever, to never give up, and to continue this fight even after Marcos and his fight for justice. But there are many other families, and so we are fighting for the future kids. We're fighting for the next generation so that they don't go through what Christina and her kids have gone through, my grandchildren, what my husband, my son, or myself, or any mother, any wife, any child, to be in the situation that we're in. So we're not fighting just for him. We're fighting for everybody that stands in our shoes, that knows what it's like to be in this pain, like you and the many other suffering families, that this fight is not over. And it never will be until we change and have, reform, immunity, and that they are held accountable, and that these laws change, not to protect them, but to protect the people that they serve.
Thank you. That was like a bunch of good stuff right there you just shared. I love the story, the sign, that it's beautiful. And I love hearing stuff like that when I talk to families. It's most of the time there's always some crazy little signs that our loved ones are like, hey, no, you don't think I'm gone. Like, I think of my mother like that. We've had signs, and I know he wouldn't be the one to just leave us alone. Like, he's still the protector, like you guys share about Marco. And we would be silly if we didn't believe those signs and believe that there's more, and that they're really like with us still. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. I love it. Yeah.
And thank you for your labor of love. Thank you for what you do for us. Very appreciated.
Yeah, it's just like you guys experienced, all of that crazy stuff, then the narratives, and just the whole fight that all of us families know all too well. With Voices of Strength, I mean, I've been hopping in since my brother was killed about 4.5 years ago now, but with Voice of Strength, it really has brought more families, like really bringing a lot of families in quick. This week, I already talked to a handful of new families. So nothing's slowing down. So
one is too many.
Absolutely. And they all need justice. And I thank you guys too, fighting this fight, but also being out there, supporting other families, thinking about the other victims and the future people, because unfortunately, it's not stopping yet.
Right.
Exactly.
Okay, well, we got a lot in. You guys shared some good things. You know what? Something crazy about this that I want to share, because I was just thinking about it, that even though we're sharing these horrible things, like, it means a lot that I can still, you know, we all at one point, you guys still were able to smile and think about him and share those memories. And like, that's important for me, to myself personally, but see, you guys, the families do too. And I'm glad you guys shared some memories with us, and photos that we're able to share too. Okay, so we could close up, in the future, if you guys, if there are updates, if you guys are having actions, anything, you guys can always tag us. And you know, I've chatted with both of you a little bit over messaging, so just feel free to reach out anytime. If you guys meet new families too, or they don't even have to be new, but just families that haven't done one with us, or people that, some of the families don't know how to share their stories, and, you know, are scared or not sure how to, I definitely talk to families, and if help them kind of prepare if they want to do this. So Voice of Strength, we do this series, but we also talk to the families more deeply and kind of try to bring them under our wing, especially the new ones, so they don't have years, you know, to learn more. Yeah, so for everybody watching, just that reminder, again, this was number 31, and we're with the family of Marco Vazquez Jr. And thank you for being here, ladies. Thank you for sharing. And you ladies have a good night, and we will talk soon.
Thank you. See you in DC.
Bye. Take care, ladies.
You too.
Good night. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Bye.
Bye. Bye, mija. Bye, Mr. Mission Man.
Bye. Bye.